I'm Oliver Grant.
And I'm Elise Moreau. Welcome to Deep Dive. It is February 12th, and looking at the calendar, it is wild how much history is packed into this one square. We often talk about the architecture of a society, how it is built, and more importantly, how it is rebuilt when the original structure just isn't working for people anymore.
Exactly, Elise. Today represents a series of massive structural shifts. These are not just names in a textbook. These are people who fundamentally rewrote the code for how we understand the world. We are talking about everything from the biological origin of species to the legal definition of what a person actually is.
That's remarkable. It really starts with a biological coincidence that sounds like a literary device. In 1809, on this exact day, two of the most influential figures in modern history were born. One was in a log cabin in Kentucky, the other in a merchant's house in England. Abraham Lincoln and Charles Darwin.
Think about that. It is the only date on the calendar where two giants of that scale share a birth year and day. Lincoln was busy transforming the concepts of democracy and equality through the fire of the Civil War. Meanwhile, Darwin was developing a theory of evolution by natural selection that would dismantle centuries of traditional biological thought. They both stripped away the old illusions humanity was clinging to.
Right. There is a shared elegance there, Oliver. Lincoln was searching for a political architecture that could survive its own collapse, a more perfect union. Darwin was uncovering the hidden architecture of life itself. They both faced incredible skepticism and institutional pressure, yet they stayed true to what they observed.
Absolutely. Skepticism is putting it lightly. Darwin sat on his findings for decades because he knew the upheaval they would cause. And Lincoln? He had to manage the operational drift of a country literally tearing itself apart. He had to pivot the entire goal of the war from just preserving the Union to the total abolition of slavery. That is a massive systemic correction.
That correction did not stop with Lincoln either. A century after his birth, on February 12, 1909, that anniversary became the catalyst for another foundational shift, the birth of the NAACP.
The National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. It was founded in New York by a powerhouse coalition, including W.E.B. Du Bois, Mary Church Terrell, and Ida B. Wells-Barnett. They chose Lincoln's centennial on purpose, Elise. It was a strategic move to show the massive gap between the Emancipation Proclamation and the grim reality of 1909, which was defined by lynchings and Jim Crow laws.
No way could they ignore that irony. You had the intellectual weight of Du Bois and the investigative grit of Ida B. Wells. They were responding to a race riot in Illinois, Lincoln's home state. It was a clear signal that the promise of the 19th century had been architecturally undermined by the early 20th.
Precisely. They realized that without a permanent organization acting as a watchdog and a legal advocate, the rights won during Reconstruction would just drift into irrelevance. They started with a silent march of 100,000 people in New York just to make the invisible visible. That path eventually led to the Legal Defense Fund and Thurgood Marshall's victory in Brown v. Board of Education.
It is a powerful reminder that progress isn't a straight line. It needs constant maintenance and design. The NAACP became the oldest and largest civil rights group because they built a structure that could sustain a struggle across generations.
And speaking of people who broke barriers and analyzed systems, we have to talk about Bill Russell, born on this day in 1934. In the sports world, Russell was the ultimate analyst. He didn't just play basketball. He reinvented the entire concept of defense.
His game was pure geometry, Oliver. He was a 6'9" center who prioritized shot blocking and rebounding over scoring points. He understood the goal wasn't just to block a shot, but to direct that ball to a teammate to spark a fast break. He changed the physical form of the game.
Definitely, and his impact went way beyond the court. 11 championships in 13 seasons with the Celtics, but he also became the first black head coach in major American professional sports. He operated in a city and a league that were often incredibly hostile, yet he demanded accountability and excellence.
He really was the cornerstone. It is poetic that Russell was born on the same day as the man who issued the Emancipation Proclamation and the organization founded to defend it. He lived the struggle they mapped out.
It all comes back to how we handle the drift, Elise. Whether it's biology, constitutional law, or basketball, today's figures show that the only way forward is to confront the gaps between what a system claims to be and what it actually does. Lincoln, Darwin, Russell, and the NAACP were all architects of a new reality.
A day for the builders and the brave. Thank you for joining us for this look at February 12th. I'm Elise Morel. For more on these stories, visit deepdive.neuralnewscasts.com.
And I'm Oliver Grant. Deep Dive is AI-assisted, human-reviewed. Explore history every day on Neural Newscast.